Hey guys, it's Seren. This is my first video. I just really wanted to make this video in light of everything that's going on with Michael Brown and Ferguson, Missouri, and the whole thing. It's a little dim, so I'm trying to get some light, some good light here. But yeah, so I wanted to make a video, a response to kind of just everything that's going on with Michael Brown and Ferguson. Having a lot of thoughts that I kind of want to talk about and get off my chest, and so that's what this video is about. For any of you that don't know, I'm sure you do all know, but last week, August 9th, was a Saturday. Michael Brown, an unarmed black 18-year-old who was walking in the street with his friend Dorian Johnson, was shot and killed by a white police officer who has now been identified as Darren Wilson. They were not revealing his name for a long time, but his name has come out. And this has really kind of sparked a lot of protests and a lot of feelings, civil unrest, riots, as a lot of people have been calling them. And I just want to say some things. One, I was on Amnesty International's website this morning, and right on their homepage they have a banner. They have an image of some of the Ferguson protesters, and they have a banner that says, click here, stand with Ferguson. And they have an explanation of what's going on and what they're doing. Nowhere on Amnesty International's page does it mention that Michael Brown was black. And I'm seeing a lot of news outlets and media, which I'll talk about a little bit later, kind of using the same method and kind of running with this rhetoric and making this into a police brutality issue. On the Amnesty International page, it says, stop the use of excessive and lethal force, etc., something like that. And while this is an issue of police brutality, I'm definitely not going to argue that. This is also an issue about race, and I'm not comfortable with the way that race is being extracted from this issue. This is about race. Is this also about police brutality? Yes. Is this also about excessive force, lethal use of force, militarization of the police and their response to the Ferguson protests? Yes. Is this also about classism and the divides between rich and poor? Yes. But it is also about race. All of these issues intersect, okay? Intersectionality is real and definitely at work here. So I am really extremely uncomfortable and a little disappointed in the way people are trying to extract race from this, because it clearly makes them uncomfortable. We have an issue in this country, in the United States, talking about race, people feeling uncomfortable talking about race, people feeling like talking about race is not something that they should be doing in 2014 in the post-racial society. Like, race is not an issue, something that doesn't matter. Race is very much still an issue. It is something that matters, because race was clearly one of the issues that got Michael Brown killed, one of the issues that got Trayvon Martin killed, one of the issues that got Renisha McBride killed, one of the issues that got Isdell Ford killed, one of the issues that got Oscar Grant killed. There's a long list of black bodies, unarmed, that have been shot and killed, murdered in cold blood by police. Give me a list of white, unarmed bodies, people that have been shot by police and nothing happened. No one was arrested. No one was fired. Nothing happened. No justice was brought. Give me a list. You can't even give me a list. You can't even Google it and give me a list, because this doesn't happen to white bodies. This happens to black and brown bodies, Hispanics and Latinos, as well as black people. So this is a race issue. Is it also a power issue? Yes. Are the police being heavily militarized and given an amount of power in this country that allows them to wield it over the rest of us, civilians? Does it make us powerless? Yes. Are the police possibly, probably, patrolling the poor neighborhoods at an excessive rate, locking up the poor people at an excessive rate, arresting them at an excessive rate, putting them in prison at an excessive rate? Yes, but we also have to look at, typically, who are the poor and the disenfranchised? The people of color, the minorities. Again, intersectionality. Intersectionality is at work here. And now we have the smear campaign being launched by the clearly partial, not impartial, the partial media, and also by the Ferguson Police Department. They're launching the smear campaign to smear Mike Brown, to say he strong arm robbed this store, which one, he shoplifted, if he did in fact do it, which we don't know. If it was him on the tape, if it wasn't him, that's not the issue. But if it was him, that was shoplifting. And countless other people have shoplifted and they have not been executed in the street by police like dogs. Winona Ryder comes to mind. Rudy Giuliani's daughter comes to mind. People that I personally know come to mind. Plenty of, especially white people, they get a slap on the wrist and they kind of go on their way and about their business. Meanwhile, black and brown bodies of color, are arrested at a disproportionate rate, thrown in jail at a disproportionate rate, charged with felonies at a disproportionate rate, and shot in the street, executed like dogs at a disproportionate rate. Again, do not try to remove race from the equation. So now like I said, they're launching this smear campaign against Mike Brown. They're trying to say that he robbed the store, and, he charged this police officer. Were there drugs in his system? Blah, 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 basically. All this stuff in an effort to not have to bring this killer cop to justice. It's been a week now. There still hasn't even been an arrest made. There still have not been any charges made. Now, if the roles were reversed, if an unarmed Mike Brown had, seized the police officer's gun, shot him 6 times, and ran away, would he have been arrested? Yes, because that's what we do in this country. We arrest cop killers. We prosecute them. We, they get their day in trial. This man, Darren Wilson, who they refused for 6 days to even release his name, nothing has happened to him. He's on a paid leave. I believe there have been reports that he's maybe even left the county or left the state. There's been no justice in America where we're supposed to have a judicial process, especially for police officers who are allowed to fire weapons. Killing people is supposed to be a last resort. What happened to that? What happened to that? It's shoot first, ask questions later. Even if Mike Brown did rob this store, that did not give the police officer the right to play judge, jury, and executioner and execute him and kill him in cold blood, murder him. The autopsy was released yesterday. The preliminary autopsy was released yesterday, and it's shown that Mike Brown was shot at least 6 times. 6 times? At a distance? For an unarmed teenager? 4 times in the arm, in the front of the right arm, which means it's consistent with reports that he had his arms up. Because how easy is it to shoot a moving target? I've been to the gun range. I know how to shoot. I know how to use firearms. It's difficult to shoot a piece of paper standing still at a distance, let alone a moving target, running, charging at you as this police officer and as other people would like for us to believe. It's hard. It's difficult. So to get at least 6 shots off, 2 in the head at a downward trajectory and 4 in the arm would suggest that Mike Brown was still, he was stationary. Possibly his arms were up. Possibly he was on his knees with his arms up and ended up with 4 shots in the arm and 2 in the head. How is that not murder? And now we have these pundits and we have these people on Fox and we have these reporters and they're saying, well, as the facts have to come out before we can label this an injustice. How is this not an injustice? You have an unarmed teenager dead, murdered. But we have to wait for the facts to come out. What does that really mean? What are they really saying? What they're really saying is we need to wait for the facts to come out so that we can determine that this black thug, gangster, gangbanger got what he deserved. That's what they're really saying. They're not saying, oh, we need to wait for the facts so we can have a clear and impartial view of what's going on. Because if that were true, Darren Wilson would have already been arrested and apprehended and would be in a cell awaiting his trial where his lawyer can prove whether or not he's guilty or innocent. That's the way that it works. We don't just let killers roam free while we wait for facts to come out to justify the murder of an unarmed teenager. That's backwards. It's ridiculous. It's ass backwards, and it's completely ridiculous. Completely ridiculous. We have these respectability politics running around. People asking, well, why was he running away? Why did he steal or shoplift? Why didn't they just get out of the street? I'm sure we have all had our moments where we walked in the street, where we played loud music and didn't want to turn it down, where we ran away from someone that was scaring us, yelling at us. We've all had those moments. The thing is that when we're talking about black and brown bodies, people are able to extract their compassion and extract their humanity so that they see our skin color, because I'm clearly brown, and they don't see a person anymore. They don't see a person. They see, again, a thug, an animal, all these like buzzwords, charged at the police officer. These are words of terminology that you would use for an animal, for a bear or a rhinoceros. He charged at me. I had the gun. He was unarmed. I was letting shots off, and yet still he charged at me. That doesn't even sound plausible, okay? That doesn't even sound sensible, unless, again, we're talking about a wild animal. Because this is the way that black and brown bodies are really looked at as this country, not as humans, but as animals. And this goes back to slavery days, when we were called and treated animals. This goes back to chattel, the concept of chattel, the ideas of chattels, bodies for sale, okay? The cop in Ferguson that's been videotaped saying fucking animals, bring it. This is nothing new. This is nothing new in this country, okay? These ideas and these concepts. So again, trying to remove race and say it's not a race thing, I find it really offensive. It deeply, deeply offends me to hear people say that, And then you have other people trying to deflect and turn this into, well, why do we only care when it's white people killing black people? Why don't we care about the black on black crime, the black on black in our communities? Okay, first of all, black on black crime is a myth. Okay, one, please Google it, look it up, read some articles. Maybe I'll include some links for you guys. It's a myth, okay? Myth. Statistically, groups of the same race are going to cluster together socially. White, black, Hispanic, Latino, Asian, Little Italy, Chinatown, Spanish Harlem, Washington Heights. These are all New York neighborhoods where people cluster together by race, okay? So when you have a group of people that are all clustered together by race, what does that mean? That means that any crime that is committed within that cluster, okay, is typically going to be committed by the same race against the same race, okay? So if you have a group of black people all living together, if a black person commits a crime, another person in that community, odds are it's going to be a black person. If you have a group of white people all living together, as they typically do in white neighborhoods, if you have a white person commit a crime, typically it's going to be against another white person, okay? Same thing goes with Hispanics, Latinos. I lived in Washington Heights for a long time. I used to check, because you can look all these things up, through your police department. They have all the stats right there on their website. I used to check the crime rates. Where I used to live had a high incident of robberies. My block was probably 99.999% Hispanic. The majority of the robberies were against Hispanics by Hispanics. So that's Hispanic on Hispanic or Latino on Latino crime. places like Japan and Asia that are almost I'm sorry, not Asia. Places like Japan and China in Asia that are almost 100% homogenous. What does that mean? Typically, if a Japanese or a Chinese person commits a crime, it's going to be against another Japanese or Chinese person. These are just numbers, stats, statistics, okay? But why don't we hear about white on white crime, Japanese on Japanese crime, Chinese on Chinese crime, Hispanic on Hispanic crime? Why is the buzzword black on black crime? I read that something like, I want to say like 93, it said like 93%, I believe. You guys can feel free to correct me, but I think it said like 93% of crime in the black community is like black on black crime, but also like 86% of crime in the white community is white on white crime. That's virtually the same. Why don't we hear white on white crime, right? James Holmes shot 12 people in Colorado during the Dark Knight Rises premiere. All those people were white. Why don't we hear about white on white crime? Okay? When they say, the war on terror, statistically, the number one person in this country, that could or would become a terrorist is a white man between the ages of 25 and 45. Because the majority of the mass murders, the serial killings, the killing rampages, the acts of terrorism have been committed by white men in this country between the ages of 25 and 45. Why is the war on terror on the Middle East and on Middle Easterners? The war on drugs. 51% of drug abusers are white people, but 95% of the people in jail for drug offenses are people of color. Why is that? It's because we live still to this day, even in this post-racial society, we live in a country and under a government that was built on the foundation of slavery and that was built on the foundation of specifically black bodies as less, as not human, as animals. And this is a legacy that endures to this day, okay? White supremacy. It's written into our laws. It's in effect in our government. It's in effect in our police and the way that they police. It's in effect in our economy. It's literally in effect in everything. And people try to extract race. They try to bury their heads in the sand because talking about this makes them uncomfortable because then it makes them culpable, okay? Because if you are a white person and you live in this country, you're benefiting from white privilege. I know that's hard to hear. I know it's uncomfortable. I know it makes you feel uncomfortable. I know it makes you feel guilty, like you're doing something wrong. So you just want to pretend it doesn't happen. Hey, white privilege is not real. I don't benefit from it. We're living in a post-racial society. We have a black president. Everything's all good. But everything is not all good when it's not safe for black bodies in their own communities, when they're being murdered and gunned down by the people that are sworn to protect and serve them, okay? Because they're black, because they're brown, because of their skin color, all right? It's not okay. And we really need to move forward, not just fighting police brutality, which also needs to be addressed, not just fighting the militarization of the police, which also needs to be addressed, because as I've seen other people saying, countless other reports, when you militarize the police, you're already giving them the mindset that they're going to war with the citizens, and they're not supposed to be going to war with the citizens. They're supposed to be protecting and serving the citizens, okay, and not the government agenda. Not what they're supposed to be doing. We really need to stop and have some serious conversations about race in this country and race relations as it relates to the police, the government, the entire hierarchy of our country. And I just really wanted to say that and get that off my chest. So anyone who watches this, thank you so much for watching. Please support Ferguson. They need it. Any petitions that you see, please sign the petitions. Please donate to the funds. They have an Amazon list up of things that they need. Just please support them. But also please do not forget, regardless of what the biased media is showing you, because the media, I don't know how many of you know, I'm sure a lot of you know, but the media is owned by the same 6 corporations and their bottom line is to make money. I have a degree in journalism. I was a journalist. Their bottom line is to spin and make money off you. Try and, catch live streams. There's tons of them out there, live 24 hours a day, coming out of Ferguson, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr. There's tons tons of just live, raw, unfiltered, uncut stuff coming out because all of the news and media outlets have an agenda. They're selling you an agenda. So please try and get the raw, unfiltered stuff that's going to show you the truth. Not everyone in Ferguson is looting, rioting. You know, the people are policing themselves there as well. They're protecting the businesses. They're cleaning up. The cops have been firing upon them without provocation. Just please educate yourselves. And, you know, you can check back. I'm sure I'll be making other videos because it's something that's really close to my heart, near and dear. So just thank you so much for watching. Thanks.